Leaders of the Jewish Agency, the official body bridging Israel and the diaspora, canceled a meeting with Netanyahu scheduled for this evening. Earlier, I interviewed Jewish Agency chairman and former Soviet dissident Natan Sharansky, who played a key role in crafting the Western Wall arrangement. Mr. Sharansky, thank you for joining with us today. Did Prime Minister Netanyahu consult with you at all on his decision to abandon the Western Wall arrangement?
Well, I'll tell you frankly, for 5 years, Prime Minister was the one who initiated these negotiations, who supported these negotiations, who was part of the compromise, who was part of the solution, who wanted a solution, and then and he said that he has some problems and he asks for another 2 months, for another 3 months, and then he cancelled it in surprise move that nobody, even half hour before he did it, nobody knew about it. And that's really very, very unfortunate.
How much damage do you think this could cause to Israel's relations with the diaspora, especially now that the government took this other step of introducing a bill to limit conversions to the authority of Israel's chief rabbinate?
Yeah, it's also, there are two issues, major issues, which are of importance for organized Jewish community in the United States of America. One is, I mean, those are issues which are under debate between them and the State of Israel. One exists already for 30 years, who is a Jew, whether there should be monopoly on conversions belonging to chief rabbinate in Israel or not. And this issue, which every few years is the source of big tension, debate, and discussion, and then government of Israel decides not to try to pass this law. And now there is one more attempt to do it. And the other issue, which in the last 5 years became so important, is the issue of the prayer near the wall. One wall for one people, that is the formula which Prime Minister asked me to check 5 years ago. So the fact that in one day both of these issues are having such a negative decision, of course it's damaging, of course it undermines many efforts to strengthen connection between Jewish communities and the State of Israel. At the same time, I have to say that Jews of the world don't have another Israel, they don't have another government, they don't have another prime minister, so we are not going to play the games of disengagement. We will do everything to convince the government of Israel to correct these mistaken decisions.
Well, besides canceling meetings with Prime Minister Netanyahu, what are you personally prepared to do to make that case to the government of Israel?
Look. Yeah, we canceled all our 2 days of meetings and celebrations about 50th anniversary of liberation of Jerusalem and Kotel. And instead of this, we spent these 2 days in lobbying. Today and tomorrow we are meeting ministers, practically all the members of Knesset, lobbying them and explaining them the dangers of this type of development and the importance of having egalitarian place for prayer and importance of keeping the issue of conversions out of the politics. In addition, there are representatives of major Jewish federations and communities all over the world, and together with Israelis, we are trying to build public support to our activity. And that's exactly what we are doing in the next 48 hours.
Should the Women of the Wall and other non-ultra-Orthodox groups continue to hold their religious services at the wall despite this decision and the tensions it causes? Because really, what other choice do they have now?
Well, I have to say that it was the understanding with the government from the beginning of negotiations 4.5 years ago that in the meantime, until there is no other solution, Women of the Wall will be able to continue their prayer, the place where they are. I hope this understanding will be kept effective, and the Women of the Wall will continue praying as long as another option will not be implemented.
Mr. Sharansky, you've sat in governments with ultra-Orthodox parties that also had to make compromises. What has to really be done to break their monopoly on religious issues here in Israel?
I'll tell you frankly, I don't blame religious parties, because religious parties, after all, are doing what they promised to their electorate to do. I blame Likud and the Avodah and other secular parties who never promised to their electorate to fight for the monopoly of chief rabbinate or to fight against reform the conservative Jewry. But in the end, the ministers who a year ago voted for the compromise, this year, year after this, vote against the compromise, having no strong feelings about it, that's very unfortunate. And I think what is really important, that all our parties and all our politicians will understand that unity of Jewish people is not another issue number 100 on in their menu. That's one of the most important issues of security and strength of Jewish state.
Jewish Agency Chairman Natan Sharansky, thank you for joining with us today.